China is a shining example of economic success because nowhere in the world economic history a country has been able to increase the output by 60 times in less than 40 years. So if you can actually make this in India and on a more sustainable basis, because there are no social risks, because whatever are the risks, we are already factored them into democracy. So therefore, if you take this, all this growth rate pattern, I think when Dr. Prahlad, C.K. Prahlad talked about it, he was talking about 2022. But if you go a little, maybe a decade ahead, we could be even 10 times more than what we are today, depending upon the growth rates. And therefore, at that rate, we'll see what the vision of Mr. that developed India. If you take $10,000 per capita or $15,000 per capita, that's something when we have an economy which is 10 times higher, you can imagine what would be the size of per capita income. That would be obviously 10 times higher. So getting $10,000 per capita income is something which you can consider, if not a fully, but at least fairly developed state. So I think India has a great potential to grow and to develop, but the challenge is how do you make it with new ideas, the innovation. And as you mentioned, few of those, but I think we need innovation in all aspects of it. We have been working on new ideas all the time. One great idea was when we actually got independence, we had a central government at Delhi, we have state governments. Eventually we realized that we need to create another layer of government which is closer to people. And that's why the 73rd and the 74th Amendment was passed by the Constitution, to the Constitution by the Parliament, and we made local self-governments more functional, more autonomous, more effective. I'm not saying we have completed that process fully, but now we have got more than 100,000, almost 1 million women representatives in various local self-governments. This is something which was unimaginable for a society like India, wherein the women were not even allowed to come out of their kitchens for a long time. And since then, now they are exercising the democratic rights. So this was the one innovation in democracy, in which going back to the people from where you get where you elect the national government or the provincial governments. But now we have to give more powers, more ideas, and to make that happen, we need to use other innovative technologies to make this happen. And that's why what Prime Minister talked about is digital India. Just imagine through digital India, we'll be able to transform the way the governance is made. On a real-time basis, we'll be able to calculate everything that is happening in the country. At local government, whether there are schools running properly or not, on a real-time basis we can know. We can have a digital attendance for teachers, so that whether teachers are going there or not. The output that comes out can be measured very remotely from a place where the students are doing a good job or they need more inputs to be provided. Same would be to the same digital platform we could do for healthcare. We already achieved a very big innovative idea, and that is our Prime Minister could do that in such a short time from 15th of August to 26th of January, is to create a universal bank account for all families of India. That's something which is a world record, even UN has accepted it. And this again is a building block for bringing a new paradigm shift in the governance. This is also a different kind of innovation. So innovation has to happen through different means, but we should be clear about why we want innovation. And Mr. C.K. Prahlad wrote a very famous book, Bottom of the Pyramid. So I think, if you look at it, he saw an economic opportunity at the bottom of pyramid. He said, just imagine if we can provide an ice cream at $1 to everybody, how many people will buy ice creams? Or we provide something like some other commodity which is sold at $2, how many more people can buy it? But that was an economic opportunity at the bottom of the pyramid. So I'm just using that same idea, I'm saying, but what should be at the bottom of innovation? As we talk about bottom of pyramid as an economic opportunity, what should be the bottom of, or what should be the fundamental reason why innovation should take place? And I think, as we always believe, that necessity is the mother of invention. So for innovation, I think we really need to find out where is the problem we really need to address. And there could be many, but I'll just talk about one or two, because I have to go to Parliament and present a bill. So one thing which Mr. Banerjee mentioned, Globally, we are going to have, barring few geographies, we are going to have this problem of water. Latin America is probably, could be an honorable exception because only 6% population, 12% land and 24%, 26% of water. And Canada, which is 3% of our population and probably more than 15% of the global water supply. But barring those few geographies, water is going to be a big challenge. And any economic development, social development is not possible without water. You can have less water, but no water is not a possibility. No sustainability of any kind of biological life is possible without water. So I think really now we need to innovate in how do you use less water to get maximum benefits. The human mind is thinking differently. Some of our friends are sending unmanned air carriers to different locations to find out whether there is water on Mars or somewhere else. I think when we discover it is fine, but before we discover water on Mars, let us preserve the water on this Earth. This planet we first keep, then we can discovering water on other planets. So I think how do you manage a small quantity of water which is required for almost all uses? And today also we are actually using this water as a diplomacy. In fact, I don't want to mention specific locations, but at least few locations, if not handful of locations, where there is a geopolitical problem is because of water. So water is the root cause of that. So just imagine what would happen if the water becomes a contentious issue of a scale which is much larger than that, and what would happen to us. So I think for sustaining and development, to make developed societies, developed economies, all of that could happen through technology, but we also need technology to find out how to use less water and use more water, find out more water from different sources. We of course are using isotope technology, which is one of the nuclear science part, to locate the underground water. But I think sometimes I worry that if we discover more underground water, that also will be gone. So good that it is remaining there, so technology is not discovering it. But the point is, how do you make water-based development? How do you use less water? And you asked me to talk about railways. I think I will put one for my good friend Navani idea. How could you use waterless toilets? Odorless, waterless toilets. That could be the best innovation that could happen. Because in any case, you have to provide toilets to many households. We must have, the railways has a big problem of toilets on board as well as on stations, and the open defecation that takes place is a problem. So could we develop new ideas of toilet? And sometimes the problem of toilet is that you cannot use them without water. So these are the things could we think about, new ideas, new generation. So this is going to be one of the major challenge, and I think the innovation should drive that effectively. Other is of course going to be a larger issue. Again, some geographies are very lucky, but country like India has a big problem, and that is the land. We are only 2.2% of the land. And we have to find out many things, housing for all, as you mentioned. So one is an idea itself to construct a house. How can you make it low cost? Something which is going to be taken into consideration the local situation. In the hills, we need different types of houses. On the plains, we need different houses. On the river banks, we need different houses. On the sea coast, we need different houses. So could we think about ideas like that? But that's one part. But house, by definition, has to be built. The superstructure must lie on a land. So land is going to be required for industry. Land is going to be required for housing. Land is going to be required for agriculture. Land is going to be required for infrastructure. Railways, roads, ports, everything is going to need land of a magnitude. So now, how do you innovate ideas of many things? One, less use of land, obviously, but also the commercial idea, the new ideas, how to share the same land without creating conflict. Can we use some different ideas, innovative ideas? I think this should be some of the challenges. We should try to put people to that, maybe the same land, can it be used as community wherein everybody benefits, though a development takes place on that land. Many, many issues will have to be dealt with that, and I think we really need to work on it very effectively. So I think, in my opinion, India at 75 was a vision. You converted that into action. You have covered a lot of ground, but I think it's now only about few years away from now. So I think if we can think about even now, while you continue to pursue the 75 vision, what would be India in another 25 years from then, or 20 years from then? And I am sure CI and all, because CI is not just industry's organization. CI is obviously, the membership is largely industry, but CI's mission is not only industry focused. CI's mission is country. They are trying to transform India, in which industry can play a role. The idea is, how does business participate in transforming the Indian idea, and also make that realized soon, but not only for the business alone. The business will contribute, business will benefit, business will also participate. But the whole idea is beyond that. And therefore, I think we should think about what would be India in 25 years from now, in which I'm sure India would be a developed nation, which Mr. C.K. Prahalad wanted. And we are on course with that. But we should not just let our guards down by saying now we are on course. So we should not put it on autopilot. We have to work on it effectively, work on it very ceaselessly, constantly. And to make that happen, innovation has to be the underlying feature of this. So the innovation has to be technological, undoubtedly. Political, as we did in case of our local self-government, has to be social in terms of how to get many, many people involved into this. It has to be economic also, because in reality, nothing can survive if it is not economically viable. After a while, people just give away. So the economic viability has to be also part of this whole process. So economic, social, political, technological, all this, and environmental, without forgetting that, because that's going to be the key of everything. If you can bring all this together and make a product which is innovative, that product will survive. The product which may be very good technologically, but will not be economically viable, will not survive. If I make a phone which is going to cost $100,000, nobody wants to buy it. I have the best phone, but can be kept in museum or somewhere, but not somebody is going to buy it. At the same time, something which I make, which is not socially acceptable to people, will also not work. And something which is not politically pliable, because the best idea in which political turmoil will happen is not going to work. And therefore, I think all this put together, and end of the day, which I said, is environmental. Because that one part, I don't think any technology, so far at least, has been able to recreate. We have not been able to create water. We can desalinate it. Somebody is trying to even experiment by putting artificial water so our rains can fall, but that also has limitation. So something environmentally not sustainable will not be long-term viable. And therefore, we really need to bring all this together. I'm sure the developed India will also be guiding our many countries in the neighborhood and in our friends. In fact, in the next few months, we'll have heads of Africa. Almost all the 54 countries will participate in India's dialogue with Africa. The whole idea is that we must work together. Africa has almost as many people as we have. There are a little more than 1 billion, with, of course, 54 countries. And we have only one country with more than Africa. So we are trying to find out one of the most ancient civilizations. The first lady, or the first human, was born in Africa, the Lucy. So she was born in Victorian Valley. So I think the first human was born there, and now we must have the dialogue with our ancestors. So that's what we like to do, to develop the civilizational dialogue, and we'll try to work together to make sure that we all work towards the common goal of making humanity a far better place than what it is today. And to make that, the underlying feature will be the innovation, which I'm sure you are trying to promote, and that developing that innovation, making India a developed nation, will be a true tribute to Mr. C.K. Prahalad. So we look forward to that happening. Congratulations to CI once again. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, Mr. Suresh Prabhuji, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very respectful of the time that Mr. Suresh Prabhu has. He has to present a bill in the Parliament, as he rightly mentioned, but I have to take this opportunity to thank him for not only being here today at such a momentous occasion for India at 70.